According to Adrian Wojnarowski, after initially being hesitant, the Utah Jazz are now listening to offers surrounding Donovan Mitchell. And this is perfect news because after the Rudy Gobert trade, it really felt like the idea of actually holding on to Donovan Mitchell was more of a fairy tale than anything else. Trading Donovan Mitchell now is really the best option for every party involved, and I'm going to tell you why. Before continuing on with this video, if you end up enjoying this video, then please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also drop a like on this video to help it perform better in the YouTube algorithm. So, I believe the decision to trade Rudy Gobert is a decision to rebuild. Though that is not necessarily the only way to read into it. There is a world where the Jazz actually believe this is an opportunity to retool. Let's say they sign like DeAndre Ayton, traded for John Collins, maybe one or the other, filled out the team with good role players. They already have quite a few. It's not impossible that this team could make a playoff type run, and that could be what they're going for. Add on all the first round picks that they got out of the Rudy Gobert trade, and the prospect of a retooling is not the worst thing in the world on paper. But even then, eventually you have to take the long-term view here, and it's really unlikely that this particular avenue leads to being some contending kind of team. What you were doing before with Rudy Gobert, you have to do better than that, and I don't think what this retool could look like would really be better than what they already were. And you're not making this move, trading Rudy Gobert, just to go back to mediocrity. You were trying to break the cycle. You're going to try to do things differently, not just meander around for a few years. And choosing to do that, being that the likelihood of becoming a contender out of that outcome is very, very minimal, really you are just choosing to delay the inevitable of Donovan Mitchell leaving Utah. The problem, if you do choose to rebuild and he eventually asks out anyways, is now you are trading an older and on less years on his contract Donovan Mitchell, and that means you're getting a lot less bang for your buck on top of the years that you wasted getting here. You didn't really get into a contending type of category. You also didn't really build all that well for your future because you were too good to really stack up on young assets. So you kind of just meandered around and got a worse trade back for Donovan Mitchell. So it would be best to just cut him loose. And mind you, what I'm talking about right now is the best case scenario when you're keeping Donovan Mitchell, or at least the most realistic best case scenario. There are some outlier options out there, sure, one I'll actually mention at the end of the video, but either way, that's the positive. You could also look at it as just a full-scale rebuild, and to me that seems like even more of a fairy tale for actually keeping the guy around. To put it bluntly, the idea of a full-scale rebuild while Donovan Mitchell is still on the roster, well, it's a terrible one. If the Utah Jazz, rather than intending to retool, in fact intend to tank, or at the very least, because Donovan Mitchell is so good you probably can't really tank, at the very least accept not being a playoff level team, I don't know how many years that Donovan Mitchell is going to tolerate that shit. I don't think it'll be many. While there are outlier examples like the Celtics or the Memphis Grizzlies over the past couple of years where they were able to go from a really good playoff team to a really good playoff team over the span of a very short rebuild, achieving that is really fucking difficult in that short of a time span. So the likelihood that the Utah Jazz managed to pull off a full-scale rebuild to bring them from at least faux contender to a now contender, that would be quite a miracle. If the Jazz had some like S-tier front office that we've known for just pulling off amazing move after amazing move, then perhaps I would feel as though this was somewhat of a plausible thing. That's not really the case. Now, if Donovan Mitchell were a few years younger, perhaps I would actually let this idea slide. But going into next season, he's going to be 26 years old. He is entering his prime. And while I'm sure he could pay the lip service of being willing to be not great for 1, maybe 2, hell, maybe even 3 seasons, the odds that he's really going to stick around to see you fumble to put together a team through this rebuild, I don't know that he's really going to have the patience for that, especially being that Mitchell started off his career being a winner. I understand he hasn't won a championship, and to some people that's your definition of a winner, but for real, Mitchell has gone on some sort of playoff run every single year of his playoff career, or his NBA career, and I don't know that he's going to be content going to losing from that. This could be sentencing Mitchell to not contending for like 4 seasons, and for him, I really don't know that he's going to be willing to do that. If you were 26 years old, would you really sign away up until you're 30 years old, giving a franchise a chance to build around you? That's how, sad to say, you end up in a Damian Lillard type of situation, and I don't know if Mitchell's about that. So if we can just cut the bullshit and trade him now, we can avoid a lot of this back and forth. One of the first things I said when this Rudy Gobert trade went down and I released my reaction to it was we are going to see some Bradley Beal type of discourse around Donovan Mitchell over the next couple of years if he is truly going to stick around. And what I mean by that is the constant will he, won't he ask for a trade? Will a contender trade for him? What exactly is this franchise doing with this star guard? Are they just okay being mediocre forever? What is the game plan here? And just waiting for the first shoe to drop, hopefully a lot fucking sooner than it has with Bradley Beal. So by actually trading the guy, we can avoid that whole annoying cycle. But more importantly, you skip wasting years of a star player's career, and you skip wasting years of your failed rebuild / retool unless you can really masterfully pull something off. But unless that is the case, it's better to cut them loose now. Because regardless of what happens, you are going to get a hell of a deal. By no means are you going to be getting pennies on the dollar for Donovan Mitchell under these circumstances. He is just now entering his prime and he is on a 3-year contract. He has not formally asked for a trade. You can haul in even more assets than you did for Rudy Gobert, which was already a really good return. And you could see yourself with a fantastic start to a rebuild. Meanwhile, you don't waste a couple of years of Mitchell's career, and a probably contender team also gets a really damn good player. So this is a win-win-win for everybody, even if it is a bittersweet one for the Utah Jazz, because trading a young star is never going to be easy. But they put their backs against the wall in this situation, and they don't need to make the situation worse by making the wrong decision here. Now, I do want to throw out on the end here that there is potentially a world where this team actually does really flip things around on a really short-term basis, but it would really, I said really a lot in that sentence, it would require some very specific circumstances. Because of all the first they got for Rudy Gobert, maybe there is a world where they also trade a ton of their role players, because they actually are kind of loaded with role players right now. Like, once Donovan Mitchell is gone, there's going to be a fire sale of role players to multiple teams, because they have Bogdanovich, who's a 20-point scorer and one of the best shooters in the NBA. They have Mike Conley still. They have Jared Vanderbilt. They have Malik Beasley. They have Patrick Beverley. This team has a lot of fucking role players. So if you're able to flip those guys for first round picks, you have all the Rudy Gobert first round picks, maybe there's a world where you get some star player in Utah by trading like 15 first round picks, like a Paul George type of move. It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, but you need that player to be available. No, I don't think it's Kevin Durant. So to that end, I'm not sure what that move looks like, but maybe that's something Utah could potentially hold out for. I will say with Utah's approach to trading Donovan Mitchell is they have no reason to rush this. They have all the momentum in their favor. They have all of the bargaining chips. They need to play it safe and get the best offer possible. And maybe through the couple, maybe let's say a year of dragging on this process of potentially moving him, maybe you actually do find that avenue to you where you don't have to move him. But either way, I'm not seeing that happening, and I'm seeing this as just the best outcome and the easiest outcome for everybody involved. But that's my thoughts on the Donovan Mitchell situation. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.